Hey everyone, if you've ever felt that secret pull toward something you know could ruin everything but still can't resist, you're not alone. If my raw confession of forbidden desire hits a nerve, smash that subscribe button right now, turn on notifications, and join the rest of us who keep these guilty pleasures locked away. More confessions drop soon, and you won't want to miss them. But here's the truth I can't keep inside anymore. I shared a seductive forbidden kiss with my husband's best friend, Jake, and the steamy aftermath that followed has me completely undone. Guilt and raw pleasure angled so tight, I don't know where one ends and the other begins. I'm Sarah, 34 years old, married to Mark for 8 years, and I work as a freelance illustrator from our quiet suburban home while he heads off to his corporate office every morning. Like the confession itself could burn the screen, you're the only one hearing this right now in this raw, trembling space between us. No one else. Not Mark, not the neighbors who wave at us over the fence. Just you, and the ache I've been carrying alone for too long. That kiss wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost accidental, yet it cracked open something inside me I didn't know was sealed shut. His breath brushed my cheek, warm and steady, and the air between us turned thick, heavy with everything we weren't supposed to feel. The aftermath. It lingers like smoke in an empty room, curling around my thoughts at the worst moments, leaving me flushed and restless even when the house is silent. I hate how much I replay it. The way my pulse still stutters at the memory, heat flooding my chest before I can push it down. Shame crashes in right after, cold and sharp, because this is wrong on every level. Jake, of all people, the one man who should have stayed safely in the friend's own forever. I'm supposed to be steady. You know, the wife who sketches dreamy illustrations at the kitchen table while sunlight pours through the blinds, the one who is dinner ready when Mark walks in from the city grind. 8 years of building this life together. The cozy suburban house, the routines that once felt like home, but lately those routines have left me feeling invisible, like a ghost in my own story, sketching other people's happiness while mine faded to gray. Then that one forbidden moment changed the color of everything. It pulled me in like gravity I couldn't fight, even as my mind screamed to step back. I catch myself staring at my reflection in the hallway mirror some afternoons, cheeks warm, wondering how the woman who promised forever could crave something so dangerous. Making my stomach drop every time Mark leans in for a quick kiss goodbye before work. He trusts me, completely, and here I am, drowning in the secret heat of what happened next. My body keeps betraying me. A single stray thought into my breath catches, shallow and quick, like I'm standing too close again. The craving is quieter during the day, but at night it rises, warm and insistent, reminding me how alive I felt in that aftermath. How the world narrowed to just skin and breath and the terrifying thrill of almost being caught. I tell myself I can stop, I swear it every morning while I pour coffee and smile like nothing's changed, but the pull is stronger than the shame some days. It whispers that maybe this is what I've been missing, this electric current running under my ordinary life. Third eye for a freelance artist in a perfect on-paper marriage, and now I'm the woman carrying a secret that makes my hands tremble when I pick up my pencil. Even confessing it here, voice low like this, I feel it building again. The memory doesn't fade, it tightens, and the worst part is, part of me doesn't want it to. The aftermath is still humming under my skin, daring me to wonder what happens if the pull wins next time. On the surface, everything in our marriage appeared flawless, the kind of life that drew envious glances from friends during casual get-togethers. Mornings began with coffee chats over the island counter, steam curling from our mugs as we exchanged the usual updates on work and weekend plans. Weekend hikes took us along familiar trails where the crisp air and rustling leaves created a shared escape, our paces matching effortlessly under the canopy. Lazy evenings on the couch followed, bodies sinking into cushions with a movie humming in the background, his fingers idly tracing patterns on my arm. We owned the house with its comfortable routines, the kind that made outsiders comment on our enviable stability, yet lately those very patterns left me questioning the quiet fade happening within. Nights especially amplified the growing disconnect. After Mark drifted off, I'd lie there staring at the ceiling's faint textures in the moonlight, my mind wandering to why the once vibrant spark between us now felt so subdued, like embers barely holding warmth. I felt unseen within the life we'd crafted, the quiet emptiness expanding as ordinary moments rang increasingly hollow despite the perfect facade we presented. Jake had always orbited our circle as Mark's closest friend from their college years onward. Tall and athletic from years of staying active, he carried an effortless charisma with that signature smile curving his lips easily. His warm brown eyes possessed a piercing quality, often catching mine across the room during barbecues or game nights and holding just long enough to make me aware of my pulse. Whenever he arrived, the subtle woody aroma of his cologne, layers of leather intertwined with cedar, would subtly invade the space, triggering an involuntary clench in my stomach that I quickly attributed to the evening's excitement before shoving it aside. Those encounters had been harmless background noise for so long, part of the extended family dynamic we'd all fallen into. But over recent months, his presence began to sharpen into something more noticeable, the way he'd offer thoughtful comments on my latest artwork or recall a passing remark I'd made weeks prior. It created tiny ripples of validation that contrasted sharply with the routine familiarity at home, leaving me conflicted even as I told myself it meant nothing deeper. Then one rainy Thursday evening shifted the undercurrents in a way I couldn't dismiss. Mark had headed upstairs to repair the persistent leaky faucet, the occasional clang of tools drifting down as he worked. Jake, a Tsark Puergwer, who had dropped in earlier for some casual help around the house, chose to remain downstairs and assist me with the final batch of dinner dishes. The steady patter of rain against the windowpanes enveloped the kitchen in an intimate cocoon, water running hot from the faucet as suds slipped over plates and bowls. We moved in sync at the counter, my hands plunging into the soapy water while his dried each item methodically. Our fingers met unexpectedly over a slick plate, skin sliding together in the warmth and wetness. He didn't withdraw. Instead, the contact lingered deliberately, sending a jolt of heat up my arm that caught me off guard. Leaning in slightly, his frame close enough for his breath to caress my ear with surprising intimacy, he murmured in a low, unwavering tone, "You know, Sarah, you've always been the one who really gets me." That whispered confession electrified the air around us, a shiver cascading down my spine as my breath hitched sharply. My heart thudded heavily against my ribs, the kitchen suddenly feeling smaller and heavier with an unspoken electricity that made my skin tingle. Guilt flickered at the edges of my awareness, but the sensory pull of his nearness, of that familiar scent, now intensified, and his voice wrapping around me deepened the emotional tug of war inside, leaving me frozen in the moment with questions swirling unspoken. His eyes met mine briefly in the aftermath of those words, a silent intensity passing between us that hinted at boundaries beginning to blur, and I wondered in that suspended heartbeat if this simple interaction had just cracked open a door neither of us could easily close again. My mind screamed that this was wrong. Jake is Mark's best friend, the guy who stood beside us at our wedding, the one person who should be completely off limits. I pictured Mark's trusting face, the gentle way he kissed my forehead before bed every night, and shame twisted so sharp in my chest I felt sick, like I might break apart right there on the wet tiles. But my body had already surrendered. Heat flooded my chest in slow, unstoppable waves, my pulse hammered loud in my ears, drowning out the rain, and that deep, aching pull bloomed low inside me, making my breath catch and my fingers tremble around the plate I was still holding. I hated how alive I suddenly felt, how desperately I wanted to lean into him even while every moral fiber begged me to step back, to laugh it off and pretend the air washed thick with this electric hunger. It was like gravity had reversed, dragging me toward the very thing that could ruin us all, and I stood there split in two, whispering silently to myself that I had to stop. Yet my feet refused to move, the scent of his cologne mixed with the warm steam rising from the sink, wrapping around me like a secret I wasn't strong enough to keep, and my heart thudded so hard I wondered if he could hear it too. Before reason could claw me back, I turned toward him, our eyes locked for half a second, a silent plea passing between us that changed everything in one heartbeat. Then I closed the distance and kissed him. It was soft at first, almost hesitant, like testing the edge of something sacred and dangerous. But the moment his lips parted and his hands slid to my waist, steadying me with a firmness that sent warmth flooding through my clothes, it turned hungry and deep, pulling me under. His woody cologne wrapped around me completely now, the rough texture of his stubble grazing my cheek in a way that made my skin prickle with heat. The same song we'd danced to at our anniversary dinner, and that single kiss shattered every boundary I thought I had, leaving me trembling, breathless. The world narrowed to the press of his body, so close I could feel his heartbeat matching mine. After that night, the kisses multiplied in secret, each one stealing little pieces of my sanity. Quick stolen moments in the garage after barbecues, where we'd linger by the cooler pretending to hunt for more drinks, his frame so near I felt the warmth radiating through his shirt, and my breath would hitch every time his fingers brushed mine in the dim light. Lingering touches in the hallway when Mark stepped out for beer, his hand hovering an inch from mine, the almost contact creating a tension so thick it made my knees weak and my thoughts scatter like raindrops. Late-night texts that made my phone vibrate against my thigh like a guilty heartbeat in the dark, words that danced right up to the edge without crossing it, leaving me lying awake beside my sleeping husband with fire licking at my ribs. Then came the steamy aftermath. One weekend Mark was away on business. We ended up in the guest bedroom, the door clicking shut as clothes hit the floor in a frantic rush, our bodies pressed together in a heated tangle of sweat and whispered names that felt like both prayer and confession. Each encounter grew more intense, more frequent, the craving building like a summer storm that refused to break. Until the complications closed and Mark nearly walked in on us once, forcing us to hide breathlessly in the pantry, hearts pounding in frantic unison while his footsteps passed inches from the door, the air heavy with the scent of our shared risk and the terror of almost being caught. The obsession only tightened its grip, pulling us deeper into the web with every risky meeting, and in the quiet moments after, when I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, I felt the ache of wanting him twist with the sharp sting of guilt, knowing this fire we'd started was spreading beyond our control. And yet, as his message lit up my screen again that very night, I couldn't bring myself to look away. It hit me one rain-soaked evening, weeks blurring into this double life I could no longer deny. I stood by the window, fingers tracing patterns on the cold glass, and finally admitted it to myself, the words forming in a shaky whisper that only I could hear. I'm not going to stop. I've chosen to keep seeing Jake in secret, to hold on to this guilty pleasure that has me hooked, even while I smile at Mark across the dinner table and pour him his favorite wine like our world is still the same. This is my new equilibrium now, dangerous, addictive, and undeniably mine, a fragile balance where every day feels like walking a tightrope over an abyss I'm secretly drawn to. The choice came with a strange sense of relief, as if acknowledging the truth lifted some of the weight, even as it added new layers of complexity, no more battling the urge in silence. I wanted the secret meetings, the way his voice lowered when we found ourselves alone for a stolen minute, the warmth radiating from him in those close quarters that made my pulse quicken without a single touch. I chose the risk because stopping felt like denying a part of myself I only just discovered, the part that came alive in the tension, and the almost that left me breathless long after. That warm, familiar sound wrapping around the room like a comfort I used to take for granted, the wave crashes over me without mercy. I forget how to breathe, my throat tightening as I force myself to meet his eyes, knowing the secret sits heavy between us like an uninvited guest. Or when he reaches for my hand in the quiet of the evening, his fingers interlacing with mine in that effortless way, the guilt floods in cold and relentless, because there's no undoing that first kiss or the steamy nights that followed, the ones where the air grew heavy with shared heat and whispered names that echoed in my mind for days. This secret has rewritten everything between us, turned our marriage into a landscape of hidden currents and careful steps, where every casual conversation carries the echo of what I'm hiding. The terrifying truth is I don't want it to end. Not the way Jake's messages arrive like sparks in the dark, igniting something I can't extinguish, not the magnetic pull that draws me back every time, even as I lie beside Mark and feel the ache of my divided heart. The internal battle rages on in those quiet hours when the house is still and my thoughts refuse to quiet. I tell myself I need to stop, that this fire is spreading too far, threatening to burn the life I've built. Yet the other voice, the one laced with craving, insists I can't, not when the proximity to Jake makes the world feel more vivid, more real. Chi's my spouse's best friend, the one who knows our history, our jokes, our routines, and that forbidden framing only makes the tension thicker, the surrender sweeter in its shame. Consequences hover like shadows at the edge of my vision, the fear of discovery a constant companion that tightens my chest. But in the aftermath of each encounter, when the high fades and reality settles back in, The longing remains, bittersweet and unrelenting. It leaves me wondering how much longer I can balance on this edge before something gives. So tell me honestly in the comments, have you ever crossed that same forbidden line with someone so close to home, where the risk feels personal and the heat impossible to ignore? Would you have stopped at the first sign of guilt, pulling back before it consumed you, or would you have let the heat take over like I did, allowing it to pull you deeper into the unknown? Drop your thoughts below. Let's be real with each other in this space. Hit subscribe if this confession has you hooked and you want to follow the next part of my story, because I'm still here, still navigating the mess. Let me know you're with me in this tangled web of desire and doubt, because even now, as another message from him waits on my phone, I feel the pull stronger than ever, and the question lingers. How long until the ache becomes too much to bear, or until I stop caring altogether?